sitting here today with JB. He's from WP Media. You may not know that company, but you probably know WP Rocket and also Imagify. You founded WP Rocket, you just told me 10 years ago.
Yeah, just 10 years, yeah.
So welcome here. Thank you for taking the time to talk to us. We would like to talk to you about page speed, obviously. Just a spontaneous question. How did you come to that subject of page speed? Why did you start WP Rocket?
That's a big question. So I co-founded with Jonathan, my co-founder, 10 years ago, and we were both focused on WordPress. And I had different websites with a lot of traffic. And at the time, already WordPress was extremely good. But as soon as you add a lot of traffic, it was hard because it was consuming too much resources and you have to optimize things. And so we worked together on optimizing WordPress, making it faster because that was really necessary. And we were not super happy and excited about the existing solution because there are existing caching plugins. So that was plugin which help WordPress to be faster, but they are super complex to use, not user-friendly, no customer support. And so we simply had the idea of putting everything we knew about web performance and putting into a really simple plugin. And our vision was to say to people that we are the expert about web performance. So we make sure that everything is optimized for your website, and you don't have anything to do. You would have to configure a few things, but it's our job to make these things. Your job is to create content, to deliver things for your website, but not to optimize for web performance. So we put everything into one simple plugin, and apparently people loved it because it worked pretty well, let's say.
Yeah, people love it still. You have lots of installs. Do you have a number?
Yeah, more than 4 million websites are using the WordPress Rocket today.
Okay, crazy. When we are talking about WordPress and page speed in general, what do you think, what are the most important things people should know? Like when you use WordPress maybe on a weekly basis, but not too often, what should you care about?
So, well, the first thing, and it's always the basic, is hosting, because when you have a website, you need to host. So it's basically a server which is hosting your website, and you need to make sure this is a good hosting. So there are plenty of good hostings. It's always hard to me to recommend very specific hosting. So I always recommend people to search about different solutions and to try, because most of the hosting allow you to try their services. And there are some better, there are some less better, let's say. And what is important is to pay a little bit, because this can be, this is always in a way expensive, but you need to spend for your website. Otherwise that can't work, especially if your business is living on your website. That's extremely important. So don't go to the very cheap solution, because if it's cheap, they have probably cheap servers, cheap bandwidths, and that will never work. Maybe if you have a really small website, that doesn't really matter, so you can go for this. But as soon as you have something serious, you need to be serious with your website. So that's the first thing. And even with all the optimization plugin, if you have a bad hosting, that will never work. So make sure you have this. And then it's necessary to optimize your WordPress with a caching solution like us, but there are plenty of others, because WordPress, the way it is, it's a tool in a way. So if you use only WordPress, that's not enough. So you will need to add themes, to add different plugins to bring different solution, and you need a performance plugin, which will make everything into your website to make sure this will be fast. Otherwise, your visitors will wait, and who like to wait. So of course, if it's not strictly necessary if you don't care about your visitors, but as soon as you care about your visitors or you care about Google, you will need to make sure your website is fast. So install a caching plugins. Our solution is premium, you need to pay, but there are free other ones which are excellent, which you can use. And if you need something more simple probably, and also with customer support, because it's technical, sometimes it's complex, you can use WP Rocket, for example.
And should you make it a weekly or monthly task to care about page speed, or is it like a one-time thing?
It's more one time. So basically you would install a solution, a plugin. You would need to configure a little bit, probably do some tests. That's extremely important. So you can use page speed test. That's a tool from Google, which will provide you feedback about the things you can improve.
We could add that link in the caption.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then you configure everything, and that's all. Of course, the plugin will provide updates. Maybe you will need to update, but on our side, our vision is the more updates we do, the more, in a way, features we remove, because we automatically enable by default, because our vision is people shouldn't focus on configuring a web performance plugin. They should focus on writing or selling or whatever. So yeah, that's our perfect vision for the WP Rocket, for example. You just have to enable it, that's all. So you shouldn't spend time.
That sounds awesome. So people should...
Not there.
Yeah. People shouldn't focus on technology, but you obviously do. What's like the process? Can you tell us how you decide what's like next for the plugin? How do you know what's the next big thing? We have the Core Web Vitals probably. That was like the last big thing probably. How do you know what's important for next year's or next month?
We are dependent of one very strong thing, which is borders. Because there are all the time new technologies, let's say, which are implemented for different solutions. But on our side, we can't directly implement because these new technology is not compatible with browsers. And browsers are doing updates and they are integrating these new features, let's say. So on our side, we are just reflective of that. Okay, now let's say 90% of the browser are compatible with specific things that we can enable into the WP Rocket. So we have a lot of ideas, we have a lot of solutions, but we can't do yet because browsers can't do it. So that doesn't really make sense to do something that only 5% of browser would be able to do it. So we have an example. So it's specifically about Imagify, which is a solution to optimize images. A few years ago, a new format of image was born, which is called AVIF. So you have, for example, JPEG, PNG, WebP, and there is AVIF, which can replace JPEG, for example, or PNG, and which is way more lighter. So you don't lose quality and the size is smaller. However, most of the browsers doesn't understand AVIF. So we knew we could have done these features, but if browser can't read that image, that doesn't make sense. So we waited that most of the browsers, which is the case today, probably 95% of the browser can read AVIF to integrate into Imagify. So we are mostly checking what browser can do, and of course do a lot of research about all the implementation we can do to make websites faster.
Mm-hmm. Great. That's like the technology side. The browsers are obviously important, but Google's probably also important or not as important as we think?
So Google is extremely important in the sense that, if you think about website owner, he's going to have a website, he's going to try to have more visibility. I need more visitors. How you do that? You work on SEO and you search about how I can be better on ranking. And then you search, and one of the top things, let's say when you have optimized your website, is you need to have a fast website. And so basically, people want fast websites only because Google wants it, which is extremely good because that's really a good thing to have. So everyone in a way is listening to Google, and if tomorrow Google will say, hey, you should have a slow website, our business is dead, but obviously that wouldn't be the case. So it's more like agnostically, Google say you need to have a fast website. They don't necessarily give the details. Of course, they provide information how to make it fast, and they are really excellent on it. But our mission is to find how we can make website faster and faster.
What would you say, what's the most important or some of the most important features in a PageSpeed plugin?
So specifically for WordPress, there is one specific feature which is a bit complex, so I will try to explain it, is cache. But what is hard with cache is it's hard to define, no one know exactly what is cache, especially that everyone would say clear your cache. But the thing is, there are probably 6 or 7 kind of cache. Our core feature, but that was since the beginning of the WP Rocket, and which has the biggest effect, is transform a WordPress page, which is dynamic, which means that there would be PHP involved, which is called to your database to request a lot of information. So that's a lot of requests, which takes a lot of time, and especially with MySQL, which is slow in a way, compared to what we call static page, which is just a HTML page without any kind of interaction. So we transform a dynamic page into a static page. And so we avoid all the calculation and all the talk with WordPress to say, hey, is the user connected? Which page it is? Should I display this content? How much, which always take time and probably like 5 seconds. And we transform into just HTML page. And that's like 500 milliseconds, something like that. So we are like 10 factors to reduce. And this is the biggest change you provide into a website. And after we have all the front-end optimization, like we lazy load content extra, but that's still minor. But that's the thing with performance, which is complex, is it's relatively easy to reduce by, 80%, like we do. But after every percent to increase, like extremely hard, and require tons of work to find the last person.
That's good advice. Caching is also not as risky as sometimes CSS minification or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. And that's our job. And that makes our job exciting but hard, is making sure we are not breaking websites. Because, when you optimize too much, you might break something. So it's also the hard thing is how we can make sure we don't break things.
Great. So maybe let's talk about WordCamp. We're here at WordCamp Europe. What do you think? What's the hot topic at the moment? What are you most excited about to hear, see, talk about?
I think, of course, all the things that WordPress is moving on, changing the way people are interacting with WordPress itself. And it's really started from Gutenberg, that people are really able to own their website in a native way for WordPress. Because, if you don't have that for someone not tech savvy, that's extremely hard, honestly, to use WordPress. Of course, it's easy to create content, but if you want to create a website in an easy way, of course, you have page builders. But if you don't have a page builders, which are in a way bandage for WordPress, it's super hard. It's compared to the concurrents. So I think for me, it's really a really good direction that WordPress is going to, because to address a market that people are not necessarily super technical, because that's what it's democratizing publishing. Make sure that your tool is super easy to use and that you can install and tune your website and write your content.
Yeah, usability in the backend is such a game changer. Yes. I agree. What do you do to enhance this kind of usability?
So on our side, it's like removing features. And that's really, so there is a philosophy of WordPress on the development of WordPress, which is extremely important for us that we follow, is decision, not option. So by saying that, they say that as developers or product developers, you should take decisions for your users and not let them having options. Because if you're giving them too much option, they will be frustrated. Because if I enable a specific option I don't understand, will I break my website? I don't know what it's going to do. So I will not enable it, and I will be afraid and frustrated about not using it. So how we can make sure to allow the people to use everything without having options. That's hard when you want people to customize things, but that's require a lot of working. But for us, it's really a game changer in the way that our plugin works for people.
That's great advice. I also think if we have agencies listening, if they enhance the backend for their clients, make sure to not have too many options.
Yeah, and if you give too much options, I've been on the agency part, building website for customers, and you build something super nice, and you give them the option to change things, and they break everything. So that's also the thing, is allowing them to tune things, but in a certain framework where they can't break, let's say, things.
Great. Thank you so much for that much advice. I think we'll have to close, but I have one last question. We're in Italy, food is a big subject. What thing are you most excited to have for lunch, maybe dinner?
To eat? So I'm French. So our food is way more better than Italian. So the only thing I want is heat. No, I'm kidding. Of course, I'm really fan of Italian food. So obviously pasta, pizza, all this kind of stuff. So I hope we will have good pizza, because you can have pizza, but if it's not good, that doesn't really worth it.
Great. So let's hope for good pizza for lunch. And thank you so much for taking your time. We'll probably have to make a video on our channel about WP Rocket.
Yeah.
Maybe we could talk about caching. I think that's a big subject.
Yeah, exactly. That's something I frequently do. Kind of webinars is, and that's important for us, is like to explain the base of web performance. So what is cache? What is minification? Not going really deep into like all the core web vitals, which is way too much complex, but just explaining how WordPress is working in basic way and how this implies web performance and what you can do concretely to optimize your website.
That's great. Maybe let's make sure to add that into the video description as well. And maybe if you like to listen or see some more tips about WordPress performance, then write that to the comments, and then we'll make sure to make a subject out of that on our channel as well. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you for taking the time, and have a good WordCamp.
Thank you.